Good afternoon and welcome to the first alpha episode of Streaming Idiots. I'm Tom Sinclair, your basic top-of-the-line streaming idiot. And this is sort of the introduction to our new show. We've been promising this for a little while, and thought we would do a sort of a generic streaming show. So this is it. We're not sure if the title is going to hold, but it sure does give me a chuckle when I think about it. And it just people say, "How damn appropriate!" Gee whiz. Anyway, the purpose of this show is to talk about lots of different ways to do streaming. That is, taking video and audio, combining them together, putting them out on the internet for folks to watch live primarily, but also recorded. And there are lots of different ways to do that, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to sort of start and talk about the how you do video, how you do audio, how you put them together, and it's going to be a lot of fun. In the first segment today, we had that VidBlaster Guy show, so we hope you will go over to that and watch that and talk about that. But we talked about VidBlaster and one of the ways that VidBlaster outputs video so that it can be picked up by other programs, and so that video can be shared in lots of different ways, like with Skype or with GoToMeeting or with WebRTC. But in our case today, with our little alpha show, I wanted to show you how we're using VidBlaster and Wirecast together to make this stream. It's kind of an interesting marriage because those two programs are not necessarily, they're competitors. That's the bottom line. They're competitors. VidBlaster's got a lot of stuff that Wirecast doesn't have. Wirecast has got stuff that VidBlaster does. Where the two circles intersect, what they both do represents probably the majority of what each piece of software has. They both take video and audio and put it together and send it out to the internet, and they both record it, and they both allow you to do lots of cool things with it. So if you know me from that VidBlaster Guy show, you know I'm a big VidBlaster guy. But that's for a different show as to where that name came from. But I wanted to show you a little bit about what we're doing behind the scenes that does have to do with VidBlaster, but it really has to do with other things besides VidBlaster. Stephen Haywood from the Tech Buzz was kind enough to give me a complimentary copy of Wirecast, the Pro Edition, which is their $1,000 package. They also have 100. The Studio and the Pro are kind of reversed from VidBlaster. With VidBlaster, it's the Studio that's the $1,000 package, and the Pro that's the $500 package. But the Pro version and the Studio version of Wirecast allow you to both do what I'm going to show you in just a second. So let's get together with a what do we want to get? I think we want to get a screen capture here, and I'm going to bring into the screen capture. Let's see. Well, let's just capture it right there. So bear with me here for just a second. We'll get this screen capture set up, and this is going to be a screen of Wirecast. And unfortunately, it's going to go to infinity for just a second. But let's see. Let's turn off the lower third, and we're going to switch over to the screen capture. We're doing this in VidBlaster, so I'm going to just show you camera 2, and then we'll put me on camera 1. Did that work? No, should have to do that the other way. So let's go back to program. That's me, and we'll have to take another time and figure it out. For right now, you're going to have to live with the infinity part of this. In VidBlaster, right in the top left-hand, in Wirecast, is a little button right there called Broadcast. It looks like a satellite dish, And you notice the little light blue cones right here. That tells us that we are currently broadcasting. We are not currently recording. We are using that, we're using VidBlaster to record this one. And then this window right here shows the video out over the internet. And then the volume meter here for audio shows you the volume going out over the internet. Down below in this lower section, and again, I'm not a Wirecast guy yet, so you'll have to bear with me. This is where you would switch your cameras. Currently, we're using the VidBlaster VVD, which is our video source, and so that's coming out of VidBlaster into Wirecast, and then just to the right here, this little musical symbol tells us that we're using the Behringer X1204 USB mixer as our audio source. So we've got a video source and an audio source, and that's what we're sending out to Wirecast. And Wirecast is, and we'll go up here to the broadcast menu, and we'll go to broadcast settings, and that's going to appear. Drag that menu in so you guys can see it right there. And let's redo our screen capture so you can see the whole thing. Capture. Okay, there we go. And you can see that we are using, here's the broadcast tab on the broadcast settings window, and we have two destinations right now. So we're streaming two feeds. Both of them are to Dacast. The top one right here is to a iOS feed, or an HTML5 feed in Dacast that's going out at a total bit rate of 382, which is about 350, I think, or something like that for video, and then the rest of it's audio. And then a flash stream for Dacast that's going out at about 1500 video and about 128 audio. And you can see down here, destination is Dacast. I'm not going to go through all this right now because the last thing I want to do is botch something up and drop the stream. I may do this as a recorded video sometime, and then we can show it on the show live and talk about it then, but I don't want to risk the feed right here. But basically, I've gone in and set the encoder presets for the frame rate and for the video, and it allows me to put in my channel name and my username and my channel for Dacast, which is something that I set up in Dacast. Go into those buttons right here as to how it is. Not going to even save this, but suffice to say that Wirecast has got some good options that are sort of pre-configured already for streaming. Let's see if we can do that without creating a ruckus right here. Yeah, we've got an RTMP flash server, Bamboozer, Dacast, Ustream, YouTube, and record to disk. And those are the ones that I said should be available just at first glance. But let's see, let's pull in the, 1 second here. We'll pull in another window. And you can see that we've got Bamboozer, Bright Cove, Church Streaming TV, Dacast Streaming Services, High School Cube. I mean, the list is probably about 20 or 30 different options that are sort of pre-configured into Wirecast. And then, as you can see, I've checked the ones that I want available to me at first glance. I don't know why. I just picked a few so that I could have them. So we'll cancel this. And if I were going to change, I would change it by dropping this down and changing it to a different one there. But again, we're not going to do that. And by changing this destination here, this information down here changes a little bit based on the needs of the particular CDN. And then right above it in here for my encoders, there's some suggested, or I guess some default or baseline settings, and I've gone in and modified those so that I can get my 864 by 480. I can get my 30 frames a second. I can set the bit rate. And then I can do the same thing for, let's see if we click this one, what happens. There we go. for my other stream, and you can see it's an RMTV flash server, and boy, I don't know much more than that. So in this case, we're taking the feed out of VidBlaster, bringing it into Wirecast. Wirecast is sending it to two different destinations. One is intended for folks to use on their iPhone. It's a much lower resolution. That's the one up here in blue. And then the other one goes at a very, well, I won't say a higher resolution, but 864 by 480, but at a 1628K bit rate, means it's going to be a pretty high quality image. Now, I said high quality, not HD. It's not HD, but it's going to be a good quality stream, so that it will look well if you monitor, or if you want to output it to your TV set through Chromecast, or basically just have a smart TV and you want to navigate on the smart TV's internet connection to this show, you can watch it and it will look pretty darn good, I think. So we'll be playing with this some more as we go into more and more of our new show. Let's see, let's go back over here. And one thing that I know for sure is if I've got this Wirecast window active, and you can tell it's active because you can see the blue part at the top, that the VidBlaster macros will not work while our Wirecast is active. So we'll go back to the VidBlaster, and you see the top part turned gray. And now my VidBlaster macro will work just perfectly. It didn't work worth a darn when I was in the Wirecast window. There is somebody out in the world. I'm trying to remember Mike's last name. He is the co-host on the Tech Buzz Broadcast Now show. But he is developing a piece of hardware, a controller surface of some kind, that will work with multiple pieces of software at the same time. He's so far has been able to configure it to work with the Blackmagic ATM hardware switcher, and also with Wirecast, and is working on making it work with vMix, and I think VidBlaster's on the list too. So it will be interesting to see how that comes together. And for those of you that are really, kind of pushing the envelope and using more than one type of this software at the same time, it will be interesting to see how one controller might make all of that easier, so that you could use, yeah, that's right, it's the h3j.com, and it's kind of interesting. There's one of those. I don't think it's Kickstarter, but it's a fundraising organization like Kickstarter3j.com website, where you can make a donation to help the project along, which is probably worth a look. The controller's going to be a little pricey, but it's going to be a highly specialized controller that will be guaranteed to work with Wirecast, vMix, Blackmagic, and hopefully VidBlaster, and maybe some others as time goes on. Will be interested. Yeah, it's Indiegogo, INDIEGOGO. Thank you, Ovanus. There's a link in the chat if you're in chat. One of the other things that you can do with the VidBlaster VVD is use it as an input into. Let me clean up my screens here. Use it as an input into some other different kinds of things. So let me set up a screen cap here, and we'll show you another one that we worked on earlier. And just for the record, all of this is happening on the same PC. So let's say that I have a show like this one, and I want to use the video stream from this as a source in a Google Hangout. So let's go to a Google Hangout. I had set this one up earlier, and it is called VVD Hangout. Currently nobody's in the Hangout. I can start the broadcast of the Hangout by clicking this little green button down here, but I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to show you how we've got it right here. I've got my I've got my camera off, so I'll turn that back on again. Say it a little bit now as it detects the audio, and whoops, it's picked up my camera. Let's go up here into settings, and you can see that VidBlaster VVD is the camera setup for this. The mic setup is the line N7. That's my Behringer mixer. And then if I want to have sounds back to me, they're going to come back through my sound card, which currently is set to go to Skype right now. So if we play test sound, yeah, we don't hear anything because it's on the Skype channel. If I turn the Skype channel up, yeah, let's try that one more time. Well, whatever. We're not really worried about that. What the point for this one is, yeah, I understand that the audio got a little flaky when we went into this because for some reason this has impacted the USB bus. The video settings would be basically any video options that are available on my PC. Now, one of the video options is something called VidBlaster, and another one is called VidBlaster VVD. Now, those are not to be confused. The video output from the output module, and the VidBlaster is the video device output from the streamer module. So we're going to leave it at VidBlaster VVD, and we will save that, and that becomes, yeah, there we go. Let's see if we set the output to be something else, if it makes a difference there. There you go. So you can see I've now selected camera 1 as my output. I can select effect 4 as my output, and I can also, and this is a Google Plus kind of thing, right up here I can adjust the bandwidth usage. So right now I've got the bandwidth set to low. I can adjust it higher and the video quality will improve, or I can adjust it lower or take it all the way down to audio only. But that's sort of a Google Hangout kind of thing. Anyway, that's Google Hangouts. And that's using VidBlaster's VVD as an input for that. Let's go back here to our program. We're going to adjust the VVD so that it shows the program module. And then we'll go back just to a regular camera, and I'll kill off that screen there. There are other pieces of to do this is anything that is WebRTC. Now, as you recall, or maybe you don't, WebRTC is a audio and video streaming option that is built into some browsers like Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, and others. And if you know how to make it work, you can set up a browser page, and you and I can talk through that page. It's kind of interesting, and I think we'll see that become more and more prevalent. Depending on how you configure it will determine whether or not it's high definition or low definition, how much bandwidth is used. All of those parameters are sort of built into the page. And I suspect we'll see a lot more of that. One of the hopes that, and I don't know a lot about this, but I'm hoping that programs like VidBlaster and Wirecast and vMix and those of that genre will find a way to incorporate WebRTC into the software somehow so that you can simply set up a camera in that program, and that camera will be the person that you're communicating with through the browser. In the same way that, for example, VidBlaster uses the Flash Media Live encoder in command line function, and so you never really see FMLE. VidBlaster just uses it in the background. That the programmers out there can't figure out how to use the WebRTC functions in the background so that the programs like VidBlaster and Wirecast and such can just pick up the video and audio and bring that in as a camera with audio. I think that's really going to be exciting, and that we're going to see a lot more flexibility with talk shows. The way to use VidBlaster and Skype or VidBlaster and WebRTC right now is basically to do a screen capture the way we've screen captured, and given some examples to you for the last few minutes. But whenever you screen capture, you lose, at least in VidBlaster, and I think it's true in Wirecast too, you lose a little bit of resolution, you use a little bit of extra CPU bandwidth or CPU horsepower, and as a result, things just don't happen as efficiently. And that's not going to be a problem maybe when we get to the end of 2014 and the new Intel i7 chip comes out that's supposed to be priced in the 400 range, that has 6 cores, 12 threads, and maybe we won't suffer from CPU heartburn as we have in the past. But if you've watched any of our shows, you know that we're trying to push the envelope on this whole streaming idea. There are lots of guys, well, I won't say lots, but there are a number of folks out there that are doing some really intricate broadcasts using multiple PCs, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 PCs dedicated of Skype on each one, with a PC that might be dedicated just to streaming and encoding, or a PC that might be dedicated just to recording, or a device that might be dedicated just to recording. We've been playing with, let me pull it in here, the AverMedia Live Gamer Portable as a good low-cost option for recording or for encoding or as camera input. And so we've been working pretty hard on trying to get this guy ready to go, but as of yet haven't figured out how to use it most effectively, and we'll be interested to see if it works for any of those kinds of things. I mean, it's designed basically to stream and or record video games, and so my hope is a video game is nothing but video and audio, and so if I can figure out how a 19-year-old would make it work, then maybe we can have it as a great way to offload a function from your PC onto that little box. And my hope is that it can be used as something as great as an HD capture card, because for $150 that's not a bad little HD capture card, and if it's easier to configure than a Blackmagic Intensity Pro card, it could certainly get pretty popular. Or if equipped with a Class 10 SD card, which is a really fast writing and reading SD card, that it might be used as a capture device for a show like this one, and I can offload my recording process to capture on that little device. So it's going to be interesting to see. So we're going to explore those kinds of things on this show. We're going to talk about different kinds of CDNs and what they bring to the table. It's funny, people say, what's the best? Well, what's the best for what? My wife had a new recipe last night for dinner that I thought was really great, but and I hope she will have again. But if somebody says, well, what's the best? Well, the best is the steak that I did 2 weeks ago, the T-bone. That was the best. But for a casserole, last night's casserole was the best. So what's the best in CDNs? Well, what are you going to use the CDN for? How are you going to use it? That determines what's the best. So you got to set up your criteria. I get folks that contact me weekly and saying, can you give me an idea how much it's going to cost? My school wants to stream its high school football games. How much is that going to cost? Well, it's going to cost somewhere between $300 and $4,000, depending. And that's not a very fair answer. But you kind of have to dial up or dial in on what you want to do, how you want to do it, have some idea what your budget is, or at least what your initial budget is. Let me put it like that. Sometimes you have to prove the concept that this will work in a particular situation. And to prove the concept, you may have to prove it with a makeshift low budget or no budget setup in order to prove that it'll work. And once you've proven it, then maybe you can get some sponsors or some money from somewhere to do it. Quick story as we come out of this one. One of the ways that I funded the initial start of this show 2 years ago was, believe it or not, it's going to sound terrible, but I was an eBay vendor, and I found somebody that a carton of microphones. They were probably factory seconds. Maybe they were blemished versions or something. And they were selling that for, whatever they could get for it on auction. Well, it didn't take me long to realize that I could buy that case of 90 mics and divide them up and resell them and make some money. And so I did that and put them right back on eBay for, buy one, get two free, and then buy one, get 9 free, and really started selling them and realized this guy had a couple of cases. So I went and bought every case he had, and some of the cases that he said had 90 mics in them had 120 mics in them, and so ended up making a couple $1,000 net that I was able then to turn back around into some equipment to get moving on some streaming. But I had already proven the concept prior to that and knew that it was worth the extra effort to try to squeak some money in. So find some creative ways to raise some dough and, call it a hobby. I like to call it a professional hobby. That is a hobby that doesn't really net, well, it doesn't net anything positive, but it also doesn't net anything negative, where the hobby sort of funds itself. And we'll talk some about revenue streams as we talk about that too. But this has been the first edition, a very rough alpha edition of our new show, Streaming Idiots, and we hope you will join us whenever it is we decide to, what day of the week or time we decide to broadcast it, and however frequently we decide to do it. We hope you will join us for that. About it. Yeah, we have to figure out what's the relationship between this and the VidBlaster show, and how do we make sure that all these when they want to see them. It's not fair to continue to broadcast this as if it were part of the VidBlaster show. So we'll have to work out all those. We'll have to work out all those difficulties over time. As for now, I'll tell you what. As for now, let's do this. If you've got some interest in this, go ahead and shoot me an email if you've got some ideas for the show, or if you'd like to be on the show, or if you have a product that you think would be really cool that you'd like to get on the show, and or that you'd like me to review. Shoot me an email. We'll talk about it. We certainly have, we can go any direction we want to here, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. One of the concepts that I'm working with that I want to sort of flesh out a little bit is having a variety of hosts, and I would love to have you come in on as a host for the show. And when I say a host for the show, I don't really mean kind of like an Ed McMahon co-host that's there every week, although we could talk about that too, but rather somebody that would be willing to come on once every 6 or 8 weeks and bring a particular project or a particular concept or a particular piece of hardware or software to the show, and then go out and play with it and do some things with it, and then come back and report later and say, for example, here's a great one that we talked about today, to talk about integrating WebRTC. To have somebody that really had an interest in that and wanted to play with it, and then bring it, and then come back and bring information back. Or here's another good example. Let's say that you've got a product that you're developing, and you'd like to come on the show and talk about your product. We can even put your product in our store and let it be sold there, and then periodically you can come back on and tell us what's going on with your product. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So there are lots of different ways to kind of crack this egg and see what comes out of it. I think it's going to be an awful lot of fun. And invite those of you that are watching live to hang around for the post show. We don't have balloons and hats today. I think all we have is peanuts, but that's okay. Hang around for peanuts. And if you're watching us on YouTube, well, I don't know when we're going to be on again. So, shoot me an email, Tom at that VidBlaster Guy, or just check our website, that VidBlasterGuy.com. We'll probably be posting some information there about where to go to watch this show in the future. But it'll be a lot of fun. I'm Tom Sinclair, and have fun streaming. Have fun streaming. It's going to be great. Bye now.